The golden arches. You see 'em everywhere, right? Quick food and hey, maybe it was your first job. They say billions served, and I believe it. But what really happens when they lock up? The crowds vanish, and it's past midnight. What if the only ones there are the night crew and something else? We've all heard those crazy urban legends, McDonald's built on old graveyards, or that super creepy feeling in an empty place after dark. But tonight, guys, we are going way beyond just a weird vibe. We're diving into actual chilling stories from McDonald's employees who swear they've seen stuff they cannot explain. Terrifying things during those super late, lonely hours. These are stories of shadows that dance by themselves, voices whispering from empty corners, and a fear so real it sticks with you even after you clock out. So buckle up, because these McDonald's employees are about to drop their true ghostly night terrors. You might seriously rethink your next late-night food run. Our first story? It goes down in a McDonald's off a quiet highway, deep in the Midwest. A magnet for late-night truckers and super-tired travelers. For Sarah, a college student grinding out graveyard shifts for tuition, it was usually a predictable, kind of boring gig. Cleaning, stocking, and the occasional zombie-like customer wanting a Big Mac at 3 a.m. That was her life until the appearances started. It began small. Like a flicker of movement she'd catch from the corner of her eye while mopping the totally empty dining room. She'd whip around thinking it was her coworker, Dave, but nope, nothing. Just empty tables and the hum of the fridges. Then came the cold spots. Patches of air in the stockroom or near the back entrance that would get unbelievably cold, giving her goosebumps, even on hot summer nights. Dave felt them too. It was their secret. Something was just off. The first time Sarah actually saw her, she almost told herself it was a trick of the light or just extreme exhaustion. It was around 2:30 a.m., a super quiet Tuesday. Sarah was wiping down the front counter, glanced into the dark dining room, and bam! Standing near aisle 3, by the window looking out onto the pitch-black highway, was an older woman. She was kinda see-through, glowing in the dim emergency light, and seemed to be looking out the window, her back to Sarah, wearing what looked like a simple, old-fashioned dress. Sarah blinked, thinking a customer somehow got in even though the doors were locked. When she opened her eyes, poof, the figure was gone. She didn't tell Dave right away. Who would believe her? But the sightings kept happening, always fast, always silent. Sometimes, the woman would be sitting in a booth, head down like she was deep in thought. Other times, Sarah would see her walking slowly towards the restrooms, only to vanish before reaching the door. Things got really crazy one rainy Thursday night. Sarah was in the tiny manager's office at the back, doing inventory. Dave was on break, probably in his car. The only sounds were rain hitting the roof and the radio crackling softly in the kitchen. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from the main inventory room, a heavy, deliberate sound, like something massive had dropped. Sarah's heart exploded in her chest. She cautiously called out Dave's name, hoping he'd come back. Silence. Trying to be brave, she crept to the inventory room door and peeked in. The single light bulb made shadows dance everywhere. Nothing looked wrong at first. Then, another thud, louder this time, from the far corner, behind a tall stack of promo toy boxes. As she watched a case of soft drink syrup, this stuff weighs at least 40 pounds and was stacked securely, started to wobble like crazy, and then just slid, making this awful scraping sound a whole foot across the concrete floor. It moved like an invisible hand just pushed it. Sarah didn't scream. She was too frozen, a mix of pure terror and just not believing her eyes. She backed away slowly, her eyes darting everywhere, expecting something, or someone, to just appear. That's when she saw the woman again. Not in the dining room this time, but standing just inside the inventory room doorway, partly hidden. She was clearer than before, her features more defined, though still ghostly. Sarah couldn't see her expression, but she felt this overwhelming cold, a deep sadness coming off the figure. The ghost didn't move, didn't make a sound. It just watched. Sarah finally let out a choked gasp and stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth. She turned and ran to the kitchen, gasping for air. Dave came back a few minutes later to find Sarah pale and visibly shaken, trying to explain the unexplainable. He was skeptical, obviously, but her genuine terror was impossible to ignore. Later, they checked the security footage. The camera in the inventory room showed the syrup case moving, just like Sarah said. On other cameras, doors in different parts of the restaurant seemed to open and close. Slowly, with no one near them. There was no clear image of the woman, just weird flickers and shadows where Sarah said she saw her. The franchise owner, when they told him, just said it was tiredness or bad wiring. Can you believe that? Sarah knew what she saw. She asked for a transfer to day shifts immediately. And while the creepy stuff stopped for her, whispers among other night shifters suggested the old woman in aisle 3 was still a silent, watchful resident of that lonely McDonald's. Who was she? Why was she stuck there? It's a chilling mystery. A real night terror for anyone unlucky enough to meet her. Our next story? Hoo boy. This is where things go from just unsettling to completely bizarre. This tale sounds like it was ripped straight from a creepypasta, but the former employee, Mark, told it with such chilling sincerity. He didn't last long on the night shift at this McDonald's. One of those older ones with a tired-looking, slightly faded Ronald McDonald bench statue near the entrance, and you're about to find out why in terrifying detail. Mark was a teenager. This was his first job. The late hours, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., were kinda cool at first. A strange, quiet world compared to the daytime chaos. The McDonald's he worked at was in a strip mall that was definitely past its prime, the kind of place that felt abandoned even when it was open. His duties were normal: cleaning, prepping for morning, handling the rare drive-thru order. That Ronald McDonald statue, bolted to a bench just inside the main doors, it always creeped him out a little. Its painted smile seemed way too wide, its eyes a little too blank, especially in the dim after-hours lighting. For the first few weeks, nothing too wild happened, just the usual quiet of the night shift. Then, strange things started, all focused on that statue. Mark would often be in the back, cleaning fryers or mopping the kitchen. He'd be alone in the building, his manager usually hiding in the office doing paperwork. He started hearing faint sounds from the front of the store. A rustling, a soft scraping. He'd just ignore it, thinking it was the building settling, or maybe a stray cat. Nope. One night, around 3 a.m., Mark was taking out the trash. The service alley was dark and dead silent. As he came back in, walking through the quiet kitchen towards the front to check the lobby, he felt this sudden, intense chill. When he got to the main counter, he glanced towards the entrance. The Ronald McDonald statue was, of course, still there on its bench. But something was wrong. Its head, usually facing straight ahead, was now tilted just a tiny bit to the left, its painted eyes seeming to stare at a spot just past the order counter. Mark froze. He knew, like absolutely knew, the statue's head had been straight when he started his shift. He even had this nervous habit of glancing at it every time he passed. He told himself he was imagining it, that he was tired. Heart pounding, he walked over and hesitantly touched the statue. Cold, hard fiberglass. He tried to move its head, but it was stiff, totally fixed in place. Shaken, he tried to forget about it. Good luck with that. A few nights later, it happened again, but this time it was so much creepier. Mark was in the play area, a small, lonely space at that hour, wiping down tables. He heard a distinct, soft giggle from the front of the restaurant. It wasn't a kid's giggle. It was lower, almost plasticky sounding. His blood ran cold. He crept out of the play area, peeking around the corner, The restaurant was empty, lit by the orange glow of streetlights. He looked at the Ronald statue. This time, its head was tilted even further, and that permanent painted smile seemed wider, more menacing. And one of its gloved hands, which was always resting on its knee, now looked like it was lifted, just an inch or two, like it was trying to wave him over. Mark backed away slowly, a knot of pure fear tightening in his gut. He wanted to run, to call his manager, but he was paralyzed by dread. He spent the rest of that shift basically hiding in the kitchen, jumping at every tiny sound. He told his manager about it the next morning, who, big surprise, laughed it off, saying Mark was overtired and his imagination was running wild. The absolute peak of Mark's terror hit the following week. It was a super stormy night, rain lashing the windows, wind howling. The power had flickered a few times, making everything feel even more terrifying. Mark was restocking napkins at the condiment station, his back to the entrance. He heard a creak, then a slow, deliberate scraping sound from behind him. He spun around. The Ronald McDonald statue? It wasn't on its bench anymore. It was standing in the middle of the entranceway, about 10 feet from where it should have been, its head now fully turned towards him. That grotesque, painted smile, seeming to stretch impossibly wide in the dim light. Its eyes, those dead, vacant circles, were locked right onto him. Mark screamed, a raw, terrifying sound that got swallowed by the storm. He stumbled backwards, tripping over a wet floor side, and scrambled away, crab-crawling towards the kitchen. Then he heard it. Slow, heavy footsteps. That unmistakable thud of giant clown shoes on the tile floor, and they were coming after him. He scrambled into the manager's office, which thankfully was unlocked, and slammed the door, fumbling with the lock. He could hear the footsteps stop just outside. A low, guttural chuckle rumbled from the other side of the door. He stayed in that office, barricaded and trembling, until the first light of dawn came through the window. When his manager arrived, he found Mark a complete wreck. They searched the restaurant. The Ronald McDonald statue was back on its bench, in its usual spot, its smile as fixed and harmless looking as ever. No sign of anything out of place, no footprints except Mark's. Mark quit that day. He couldn't offer any explanation that didn't make him sound insane. He never worked another night shift, and to this day, the sight of a Ronald McDonald, even in broad daylight, fills him with this deep, unexplainable terror. So, was it all in his head? Something cooked up by stress and being alone? Or did something genuinely evil bring that fiberglass clown to life in the middle of the night? Mark? He's pretty damn sure he knows the answer. Our last story tonight? It happens in a place that gives a lot of night shift workers the creeps, the drive-thru window. For Lisa, a seasoned McDonald's employee who'd seen her share of strange customers and late-night weirdness, the stuff that happened over one particular summer week pushed her from being cynically amused to genuinely scared, where things got so weird, blurring that line between just plain bizarre and maybe something paranormal. This McDonald's was near a busy interstate, so the drive-thru was often the only thing happening after midnight. Lisa usually had a younger coworker, but on this specific stretch of nights, her usual partner was out sick. This left her to handle the front, the kitchen, and the drive-thru mostly by herself, with a manager who pretty much just stayed in the back office. It started with the headset. Faint whispers, like you could almost make out words, but not quite, would filter through when no cars were there, and the system should have been silent. At first, Lisa just thought it was radio interference or some technical glitch. But the whispers got clearer, though they never formed actual words. They sounded like multiple voices, hushed and urgent, sometimes with a faint static-like sigh. She'd take the headset off, check all the connections, but the sounds would stick around, this unsettling murmur in her ear during the long, quiet gaps between orders. Then came the phantom orders. The drive-thru sensor would ding, meaning a car had pulled up. Lisa would greet the non-existent customer, only to get silence back. Now, this happened sometimes with faulty sensors, but it started happening multiple times a night, every single night. Sometimes after the ding, she'd hear what sounded like faint, messed-up music or a barely audible mumble before the line went dead. Checking the security camera for the drive-thru lane. Nothing. No car. No person. Just the empty, lamplit asphalt. What is going on? But the thing that really freaked Lisa out, the one that made her truly scared, involved what she could only describe as a doppelganger, or maybe something even weirder. It was way past 2 a.m. A beat-up sedan pulled up to the drive-thru speaker. A man's voice, rough and tired, ordered a large coffee and 2 apple pies. Pretty standard. Lisa took the order, told him the total and said, "Please pull around to the first window." As she turned to the register and then to the coffee machine, she saw, through the interior window that looked out onto the front counter area of the locked-down restaurant, a man standing there. He matched the description of the man she had just seen in the drive-thru camera. Same build, same faded baseball cap, same tired slump to his shoulders. He was just standing inside the restaurant near the main entrance, looking directly at her. Lisa just froze. The doors were locked. No alarms had gone off. How could he possibly be inside? She stared, and the man inside stared back, his expression impossible to read. Then the headset crackled. "Hello? Is anyone there? My coffee?" It was the same voice from the speaker. Her head snapped towards the drive-thru window. The beat-up sedan was there, idling. And in the driver's seat was the man. The same man. He looked impatient, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. Lisa whipped her head back towards the lobby. The figure inside was gone, vanished without a sound. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely handle the money when the man at the window paid. She tried to act normal, but her voice was thin and shaky. She kept glancing over her shoulder, expecting to see the other man reappear. The customer took his coffee and pies and drove off, totally clueless about how terrified she was. Lisa immediately called her manager from the back office, her voice trembling as she explained what happened. The manager, a no-nonsense woman named Carol, came out, listened, and then, to Lisa's surprise, didn't immediately shut her down. Carol actually admitted that, yeah, other night shifters over the years had talked about odd feelings, seeing shadows, and hearing unexplained noises, especially around the drive-thru. One former employee had even quit, claiming he saw a customer in the drive-thru, and then, seconds later, saw the identical person walking across the empty parking lot. Can you even imagine? They checked the security footage for the lobby. And get this. At the exact moment Lisa said she saw the man inside, the camera showed nothing. Just the empty, locked-up restaurant. No glitch, no flicker. Just an empty space where Lisa was certain she had seen him. For the rest of that week, Lisa felt constantly on edge. The whispers in the headset continued, sometimes sounding like they were calling a name she couldn't quite make out. Things in the kitchen would occasionally be found in different places than where she'd left them. A spatula moved, a stack of cups slightly off. It was never anything huge, just small, unsettling things that messed with her head. She started to dread the quiet hours, those moments when the hum of the machinery was the only sound, because that's when the other, fainter sounds would begin, and the feeling of being watched would become almost unbearable. Lisa eventually transferred to a different McDonald's, one in a busier part of the city, hoping the constant flow of people, even at night, would get rid of the lingering shadows. But she never forgot the man who was in 2 places at once, or the ghostly whispers that seemed to come from the very air of the late-night drive-thru. These kinds of stories, where reality gets mixed up with this creeping, unexplainable stuff, they're a pretty stark warning. When you're working the graveyard shift, you might not be as alone as you think. So yeah, those golden arches glowing at 3 a.m., They might look like a friendly sight if you're hungry late at night. But for the employees working inside those familiar walls, the graveyard shift can sometimes turn into a landscape of unexplainable fear and bone-chilling encounters. We've heard insane tales tonight of silent ghosts, objects moving on their own, childhood mascots going full-on sinister, and reality itself seeming to just break apart. These stories, a mix of what employees swear really happened and that general creepy feeling you get in lonely places late at night, they really show what kind of ghostly night terrors some McDonald's staff believe they've faced. What is it about these fast food joints, the ones you see everywhere, that seems to attract these spooky happenings when it's super late? Is it the weird in-between space they become, so normal by day, so alien by night? Or is it just tired minds playing tricks? You know, being exhausted and alone making people imagine things? Maybe. But for anyone who's actually felt that weird cold spot, heard the disembodied whisper, or seen a figure vanish into thin air, those questions stick around long after morning comes. What about you? Ever worked a night shift at McDonald's or anywhere else and experienced something you just couldn't explain? Got your own tale of a workplace haunting or an encounter that made your skin crawl? Share your stories in the comments below. We'd love to hear them. And hey, if these accounts sent a shiver down your spine, do us a favor and smash that like button and subscribe for more trips into the strange and spooky. Maybe, just maybe, next time you grab a midnight meal, you'll think twice about dismissing those shadows and wonder what unseen eyes might be watching you from just out of sight. Sleep tight.